Hello and welcome to the Corona Yoga Challenge. Today is 129. There we go. And today is our deep dive into dog pose, Ardha Mukasana. I'm going to show you the different variations that we're going to do and some adaptations that you can make. We are working on page 12 if you are... I've got the home practice journal, which also has these written down for you, which will help as you go through your week practicing. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at what happens in the hips and how we can navigate hamstrings, tight hamstrings, and how the body needs to work to be comfortable. It's really important that you check my website to make sure that you're keeping safe, because there are individual circumstances which would mean that you'd need to do dog pose a different way than is actually in the book. So I've not gone into individual health issues at this point, but I want to look at the mechanics, if you like, the mechanical, what's possible, what's not. So from all fours, dog pose is just lifting the hips up so we come into a sort of triangle shape. So if you look at my body now, you can see there's more or less a straight line that goes up through my hand, arm, shoulder to my hips, and then down from my hips down to the heels. So it could be that it's longer, it could be that it's shorter, but the first thing that we're going to do is, this works for me because of the movement in my hips and the movement in my back and the movement in my legs. For some people, this is not going to happen. What's going to happen is if they get their hips up like this sort of thing's going to happen with the back. So it's much, much better to bend your knees a little bit so that the back can lengthen. Do you see the difference between my back here? This is great if you're wanting to do this, but if this is your neutral, this is not quite so helpful. So it's really good if we can get that feeling of the slight curves in the back of the body. So you can see there's a little tiny hint of a dip at the back of my waist. That's quite healthy to have that. That's a natural back curves, and want to be able to maintain that whilst we're working. So the first adaptation from a traditional dog pose is to bend your knees just a little bit. Now for some people you might need to bend your knees more again. So when I do that I tend to arch my back, as you can see. So for me I would need to engage my tummy a little bit more and lengthen out a little bit more. But those are two different things that you can do. For some people, bending the hips, bending the knees further is going to be more difficult. So that can be a benefit and that can be a challenge. But it can be that you can become really, really quite squatty with it, so that you are taking less weight through the hands, so you end up with more weight coming back through the hips and the legs. Another way to adapt the pose is to do it from elbows. So for some people with wrist things going on, it's more comfortable to do it from the floor. So this changes how it feels as a pose, but you can do it with hands just extending out, just as if we were in a kind of even alignment. And then again you could come up into dog pose from here. So this is an elbow dog pose, but you can get some of the same benefits through the hips, through the shoulders, and up through the legs. So these are two of our options, different ways to adapt as you go through the week. Let's see what else we've got here. Oh yeah, this is a nice one. If you end up with discomfort through the hands or the fingers, if you've got any particular carpal tunnel sorts of things, and it can just be that it feels better for you. So don't just do this if you think, oh, I have this or I don't have that, so I will or I won't try it. Try it and see how it feels for you, because you might be like, yeah, I really like this. So what I've got here is I've got a block. You can use a couple of books as long as they're not slidey. And I've just got my fingertips resting over it. What it means is the weight comes down to the heels of the hands more, and the fingertips are left out of it, so there's less extension through the fingers. So again, we can just come up into dog pose here, and as long as this isn't slippy, it's perfectly safe, and you can get less kind of pressure through the hands. Another thing that we can do is we can take the legs wider whilst we're in dog pose. So you can do dog pose with the feet really close in towards one another. That gives us a different feeling to when we step the feet wide. When we step the feet wide, it comes more towards tripod pose. But for some people it feels better and it feels more settled. It's important when you're working, I would always start working with the heels lifted, so we can think about the tummy, the spine, the alignment with the shoulders, the arms, before I start to worry about what I'm going to do with my heels. And working down through the heels is a lovely thing to do. But make sure that you're not pushing down with the heels at the expense of your back and your waist and any feeling of joyful aliveness in the pose. Another thing that you can do, and this is just another variation, is instead of taking the hands over a block, you can make your hands into fists. This doesn't work for some people, but again, you might want to try it. So the fingertips are tucked under, you've got your fingertips down on the floor, thumbs, for me, end up wrapped inside. You can come up this way. It's just another way to vary what you're doing and to see if that's more comfortable for you. It's not more comfortable for me, but it's important that you explore these things so you can go, oh, for my body, this is what happens. And it might be that after you've done certain sort of gardening or other physical exercise, you go, oh, now I need to do this. You know, I was doing a lot of sanding with an angle grinder and it was too heavy for me. After that, it would be really good for me to ease out my fingers in a different way. So what we're going to do look at now is we're going to look at the different ways that you can vary the pose. So once you've got whichever of those variations is going to work best for you, then you can think, right, okay, today's Monday, I think I'd like to do something slightly different. So what we're going to do to start with is I'm going to show you how you can slide your hips back and up and into dog poses. This is the way that I often start teaching dog pose. So we rock back and forth, use the weight of the pelvis, use the breath so we can sink back in towards the heels and gently wake the feet up as the hips come back. So we get with that kind of internal rhythm of the movement. And then we're going to use the weight of the pelvis so as the hips come back, we press into the hands, uncurl the legs, come up and into dog pose. And as we come into dog pose, it's almost like a feeling that you can press into the balls of the feet and just gently waken up, lift up, stretch out, just subtly become more alive. So that's one way of coming up into dog pose. Another way that's quite nice to do it is to we come back through a squat and then up. So it's a different process, this one. So as we trot the hips back, sink down through the shoulders, slightly down through the elbows, so we get that feeling of gentle, active alertness. Then press into the hands. You can send your knees back if it's comfortable for you. So you get a really nice stretch over the spine as you do this. And then instead of sliding back and up, we're already back, so we're just going to come up the way. But the idea is, or what I have always in my mind when I'm doing this, is trying to keep my hips as far back as possible so I don't end up sliding back and up and doing some kind of very organic, curvy movement. For this, I'm thinking about more strengthening my legs and that kind of what has to happen in the legs for this to happen evenly. So it's down through the hands, down through the feet, or the balls of the feet, and then keeping the hips back, slowly, slowly lift up the hips. So we get that feeling of becoming really alive through the legs, and there's a feeling of activity coming right up through the legs to bring us up. So we're very aware of that connection with the ground through the legs. And then you can bring yourself back down again. What else have we got here? We have got a tabletop dog. Tabletop dog. So traditionally, I say traditionally. What I mean by traditionally is in the past 100 years in the West, traditional, as opposed to traditional the past 3,000 years of doing yoga. Traditional Western way is this sort of thing, and sometimes it's taught with a proper kind of archy back, rib cage drawing in towards the thighs. So we're really arching the back and getting very, very active up and through the hips. I tend to teach a slightly softer version because I'm not quite sure of all of the benefits of that. And another way to think about it is to take the hands a little bit further forward and to start to bring the shoulders forward. So as you bring the shoulders forward, you'll find that there is more work going on through the arms, that you can potentially, instead of the elbows rolling out and wide, you can start to scoop them back and gently draw them back and towards you. And we can work down with the heels, but it's a different movement over the back. And in some ways I feel that this ends up working the whole body a little bit more. But, everyone's different. And I don't do that like that all the time. I do that sometimes for a different sensation of how the muscles work together, rather than just this is the way. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at extending one leg up to the back. So from our dog pose, we get nice and steady through the hands, through the feet, and then you can start to float one leg up, and it can be the foot just touches the floor, so we just touch with the toes. Can we extend the foot up a little bit, just that 45 degrees, or you can come to sort of horizontal. From here, if we're nice and steady with the hands and the hips have the flexibility and the body's happy to, you can extend your heel up and towards the ceiling. And at the moment, do you see, I'm not lifting my hip out towards the movement. I'm keeping my hips even and then lifting the legs, so I get a nice stretch through the back of the legs. So that's one way of doing or lifting the leg in dog pose. In fact, what I'll do is I'll do the other leg for you. So the other way is to start to work with the movement of the hips and that rolling out and round. So from all fours, we come up and into dog pose. We can lift our leg as we did before, and then we can start to actively open out towards and into the pose. So do you see, I have, for this pose, my right foot's on the floor, and I've lifted up with the left shoulder, up with the left hip, and I'm extending up and out, and I need to stay very, very conscious of my weight being even through the hands on the floor. So that's another way of doing it, which feels good. What we're going to look at now is how we can move the hands out of the pose. So from a nice even all fours position, you can float one hand a little bit along the floor, you can float it up, you can extend it all the way out so we come towards almost triangle hands. We can bring that down. Up and fold the knee in. The knee can come in towards you, and we can open out and wide with the knee if we want to, so the foot stays in towards the hip for this one. And then it comes back and in and down. We come down through the feet and rest yourself down. So it's really important, whenever you're doing a dog pose, I haven't demonstrated this as we're going along, but after you've done a dog pose, you can do one side then the other side, but you need to rest yourself down. You need to let the breath settle, the body settle. You need to feel what you've just done rather than just boom, 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 out, out, out. It's great to go out, out, out in lots of different disciplines and ways in your life, but the whole point of yoga is coming back into your body, your energy, this moment in your life, as opposed to particularly out, out, out and into the exciting world that surrounds us. So let me see, I think I've got one more for you here. Oh my goodness, I think I've done them all. Superb. So I don't think I've got any other little dog posy things hanging around in my brain for you at the moment, but it's really nice to come into up dog from dog pose. I'll show you it, but it's not in the book. It's not in the book, but it is a really nice feeling. So from dog pose, take longer distance between the hands and the feet so that you've got space for your back to move. We lift up through the heels, we lift up through the tummy, round up through the back, round up through the back of the waist, the back of the shoulders, into the back of the neck. And as you come forward, slowly the hips come down, and the hips lead, and then the back of the waist, and then the shoulders, and eventually the head lifts. And we get that lovely feeling of, it's almost like wakening up again. And then I'm going to just settle my knees down and onto the floor, rest my head down, and enjoy this moment. So this resting down bit is so, so important. Please don't leave it out. Even though I've kind of whistled my way through a variety of dog poses there, please stay with coming back to you, because this is about you and your body and your energy in this moment. I hope you've really enjoyed that, and I hope you have lots of happy dog poses this week. And yeah, that's all from me. Thank you.